Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming. I'm Rich Lyons, Dean here at Berkeley Haas. This is the last for this semester of our Dean's Speaker Series. I know, thank you for coming. They have been terrific, and today is no exception. I also want to issue a warm welcome to our alumni and students that are with us here today via the webcast, so thanks to all of you as well. I hope that you have had a chance to come to many of these events. They are, as I said, our highest profile set of speakers, and they are absolutely terrific, so take advantage next semester. We've got a bunch of great people coming in today. Before I turn the mic over to our guest today, Joy Chen, let me give you a little bit of information on Joy's background. She is one of us. She graduated from our wonderful undergraduate program and finished in 1987. She went on to earn her MBA from Harvard Business School. That was 5 years later. Throughout her career, she's focused on tackling complex issues and in particular turnarounds. She's really quite remarkable in the turnaround context, a leader who can affect transformational change, and those of you that have done that kind of work know how difficult that is. She was with Clorox for 17 years, where she was vice president, general manager of the laundry business. There she had responsibilities for a $1 billion plus business and handled the company's most valuable brand equity, of course, that being Clorox. In 2009, she took on a new challenge, this time with the natural personal care company Yes2. Most of you will know Yes2. She quickly put her leadership skills to work, and in her 5 years as CEO at Yes2, despite the economic downturn, that company quadrupled the business revenue and increased its market valuation by 5x. Her turnaround results led to or earned Yes2 recognition as one of the top 100 fastest growing companies in our San Francisco Bay Area. She's never one to rest on her laurels, rest on her lawyers. Well, there's an interesting turn of phrase. Joy took on her latest challenge in Feb of this year, her move to the premium skincare company H2O Plus. She is the chairman and CEO of H2O Plus. With her proven track record, willingness to question the status quo, both up and down organizations, there's no question that we're going to learn a lot from her today, and we'll be seeing remarkable things also at H2O Plus going forward. Lots of other things in Joy's life as well. I won't be able to do service to all of this, but she has been a supporter of our school throughout the years. She spoke at our Women in Leadership Conference. She's been very, very supportive of leadership opportunities of women, not just at this business school, but more broadly in the Bay Area and the community at large. She's a board member of Junior Achievement, an active board member and advisor with 18 Rabbits and many, many other elements. She gives a lot of her time and expertise to the network of executive women. And she is really the living embodiment in so many ways of the kind of leader that comes from Berkeley, from this business school, what we might call a Berkeley leader. Joy, welcome back.
Thank you. Dean Lyons, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I'm so excited to be back here at school. This is such a beautiful place you guys have to get your degree. I actually went to Barrows Hall, and that's where I spent most of my time, but still it has great memories for me as well. So just a little personal note on me before we get into the crux of leadership. On the personal side, I come from a really big family. I come from a family of 9 children, and I'm the youngest in the family. And so now we don't ever get together anymore because now all my siblings have families, and they have families, and they have families, and it's almost impossible for us to get together. I've been married to Vernon for 22 years. We don't have any children, pets, or plants because we have a very busy life. and then for fun, we do a lot of venture travel. And we try to do that as much as we can in our busy schedule. So therefore, no kids and no pets. I love NASCAR racing. So another big fan and passion of mine. And then the last thing is I love to eat and always looking for that great restaurant. So if you guys have any tips in this area, I would love to try some. Okay? So I'm really excited to be here today to talk a little bit about beauty and talk a little bit about leadership. And, I think leadership is such a big, big topic, and I think we could spend days talking about it. But I'm going to talk about some of the things that are pretty critical to leadership in a turnaround situation. But also, I think, just as CEOs and leaders in general, these are things that we should consider. And the reason why I have the title that I have today is, although I think there are many types of leaders, and many leaders, have different styles, and different styles are good for different businesses, I believe that all leaders that are successful actually do it, or don't do it, they don't try. So that's really the theme of my talk today, is we confidently go make decisions and we make it happen, okay? So the first one I'm gonna talk of where I spent the most of my time is actually culture. Here we go. And, I think that culture is, I would say, an enabler to how we execute our strategy in the best way possible. It is also a way in which we could recruit the right talent in order to get us to deliver that strategy. Strategy is a piece of paper unless you get it executed right by the right people and also have the right culture to bring that innovative thinking and those business results together. And I'm going to talk about what are the aspects of culture that matters most to me and what I have done at some of the companies that I have turned around and have created that culture. The first one, I think this first value of culture that I really try to reinforce and create is optimism. And the way I would define optimism is punching above your weight class. So when you're in boxing, you want to punch above your weight class. So what that means in business is you want to show up, like you're big and you own the category, or you own the business and you own the segment. And it's hard to do that when you're small, when you're an entrepreneurial company, when you're a startup, you don't have a lot of the investments and funds. But you know what? Then we have to be creative in terms of how we go about doing that. I'll give you an example. So Yes2 is a beauty brand. How many of you guys have heard of Yes2? Great. How many people use it? All right, nice. So Yes2 is a very small beauty, natural brand. It competes with all the big beauty behemoths like P&G, J&J, L'Oreal. And we want to be in Target. We want to be in distribution in this massive retailer. And that we believe that we will be able to appeal to their consumer and their guest. And so the way that we go about it has to be different. How we go to market with Target has to stand out. It goes from all the way from how we have meetings with Target, all the way to how we sell in our innovation pipeline with Target. So one year we decided that it was important. Innovation is extremely important in beauty. The newness of having new products is really, really exciting to consumers, and then that's a way to get them to try. So in order to get Target to get our innovation pipeline or buy it in, we took them to Asia. So we decided that we're going to take them to Asia to look at all the beauty trends, because right now all the trends for beauty comes from Korea. And so we went to Korea, we went to a couple of other trade shows, we went and co-created the trends with them, brought the innovation back, and then now they're in their stores. So I don't think that that would have been the same approach that J&J would have done. I think a typical big company would have just showed them the innovation in a meeting, but we chose to spend time with them, go through the whole process of the innovation exploration process, and we co-created. As a result, most of our innovation is actually in their stores now, and we have gotten great performance on a lot of the innovation. And as a result, we were named Vendor of the Year by Target in beauty last year. So I think they really do recognize us as innovators, and they appreciated our approach. And that to me is punching above your weight class. That's an example of that, okay? I think I would say the second area of culture that's important is transparency. That's a word that's used, so overused in this environment, in the business environment. But I think what I mean by that is giving a team a safe place to speak their mind, right? To share their ideas and be willing to do that and take that extra step. That takes time. It takes trust. You got to build trust with your team. They want to feel like they're going to be heard, but then not have any repercussions for sharing their ideas. So it's a pretty tough road to go down, but it's worth it when you can get people to share ideas, because that's where innovation comes, and that's where breakthrough happens on a business. So I started something called Wind Down when I was at Yes2, and that's basically winding down the business on a Friday with wine. Okay, so chose that as a forum where we get the whole team together, and we just kind of shoot the breeze, I would say, on Fridays. It could be personal, it could be professional, whatever's on their mind. And we did this for a very long time. I mean, we did it for probably several years when I was there at Yes2. And I would say I probably got some of the best new product ideas and some of the best business ideas out of that forum. I think people let loose when you allow them to let loose, and that forum transformed also the rest of the culture of the company. So it doesn't only happen when we do Wind Down. It happens now, throughout whatever we do together. So I would say building transparency is pretty important, because you want people to feel safe for sharing their ideas. The last one on culture for me is doing the right thing, right? So it is about delivering the financial and business performance, but it's also much more so to always do the right thing for the consumer, for your team, for the company, for the shareholders. You never want to go down a path of financials that are misaligned with the ethics of the company. So it's really important to do that. And that goes from all the way from doing a product recall when you know your product is no good and demanding a product recall, so you're doing the right thing for the consumer, all the way to telling senior management that whatever they approved in terms of a launch plan is going to fail. I did this when I was at Clorox. It was earlier in my career, and I was on a brand where I was going to execute a launch plan that somebody has recommended, and the Clorox senior management have approved it. And I came in at the tail end of that, where I'm going to execute the plan, and I just didn't feel like it's the right plan. I felt like the plan is going to fail, and it's not going to be great for this business. So I went in and told the senior management, and I think he told me to leave his office 3 times. He said, "No, you have to leave now." And I didn't leave. I said, "You know what?" I said, "At the end of the day," I said, the choice is yours. You can do whatever you want, but you have to hear me out. Why I don't think it's going to succeed. So he allowed me to say what I needed to say, and I left. And as a result, he did end up pulling the launch, and did not, basically whatever he approved, he says, "You know what, it's not going through anymore." And 2 years later, we worked on the relaunch plan and launched our plan that was going to be successful, and it went to double-digit growth for the brand. So like doing the right thing, even though no matter how hard it is, doing the right thing is always key. I would say those are always the 3 culture traits I always try to bring. I brought those to Yes2. I'm going to bring the same probably to H2O+, but every leadership and every leader has different cultural traits that they're going to bring, and it's going to be dependent on the business, right? What's right for a turnaround, what's right for a thriving business, what's right for a startup idea. Okay. My second area that I want to talk about in terms of leadership is team plus social equals financial. And I'm going to go into both team and social a little bit more, but I believe that having the right team and having the right social do-good mission, to me, equals financial results and delivers on the business. I don't see those things as things are just kind of side by side. They are the reason why you would get financial results. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit into the team. I was pretty fortunate during my experience at Clorox. I was there for 17 years. I was really lucky to get on teams where there was a lot of diversity of thinking on teams, which is hard to do. And I remember how breakthrough really happened when we get people together that are not the same, and they work together in order to deliver a result. And I still remember that experience, and I remember bringing that to Yes2 when I started there as a CEO. When I started, the team really had very little diversity, both in gender and background. And when I say diversity, I don't mean just the gender. I mean the background of people, what they do, how they approach problems. That's what I mean by diversity. And when you bring those different minds together is when you can get to creative, solutions, and that's how you deliver breakthrough. So Yes2 started out with 80% men and 20% women, which is not bad actually for those percentages. But it was very, very non-diverse. Like it was just all, very American, very white, there's no diversity at all. And now, I think before I left, I think the team was about 2/3 women, 1/3 men. And that extends all the way to the leadership level of the company. And there's a great percentage and split between people that come from large companies and small companies, because people approach things differently, and people that have beauty experience and non-beauty, and then also a whole range of generations, like millennials all the way to Gen X to boomers. And I think having that type of diversity in the team, it's what really going to drive and execute your strategy. A strategy is only as good as the team you have in place to execute it. I want to talk a little bit about, switching gears a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about social. Social is a pretty big topic now in the business world. There's a lot of examples of companies that have a really strong social mission. We talk about the Tom Shoes. There's a lot of companies like that does that now. But I think whatever it is, it has to be authentic. It has to be part of why it exists for that business to have a social mission. So in my experience with Yes2, it's a natural brand and it's an organic brand. So one of the things that's really important as a tenet for the business is no animal testing. So we don't animal test our products, and we also don't want any of our manufacturers to do that. So that tenet and that platform of no animal testing was something that was integrated into every decision we make. All the choices of suppliers we choose are part of that tenet, and also the markets that we entered. I mean, China is one of the biggest beauty markets in the world, but you have to animal test to get in. And so we made a huge choice of not entering the market. We say, we'll wait until the market no longer requires animal testing, we'll get in then. So it's a big choice. Those are the choices that you make when you have a social mission and you stand by it. And that's how integrated it is to the business choices you make. On H2O Plus, we're not as integrated today, but as part of the brand, right? It means water. So our social cause will be all about water. So we are sold pretty globally. So we want to provide drinking water available. We want to be able to provide available drinking water wherever we are globally. So that's going to be our cause moving forward. We are about to open our office here in San Francisco in 2 weeks, and we're going to kick off our kind of a water cause, do good. And because it is a little different in San Francisco and California, we're having a drought we don't have a drinking problem, we don't have a drinking water problem. So we are actually going to donate and partner with Save the Water to raise awareness around drought relief. And we're going to donate behind every tweet and every Instagram post that we get so that we can continue to raise awareness on drought relief. So that's going to be the way that we're going to kick off our social mission on H2O+. But social, very important. Okay. I'm now going to switch gears a little bit. This is kind of talking about some of the leadership aspects of it and how do you bring innovative leadership into a turnaround. Now I'm going to switch gears and talk about you and talk about how to become an effective leader. And I want to share 2 areas or 2 lessons that I've had in my journey. And I think the first one I would share is really knowing your passion. I think it's important for you to be an effective leader, you have to feel excited about what you go do every day. You have to love it, and that's a lot of soul searching, but over time, you'll know what that is. And maybe you already know today, and you're just in the search of getting through that journey. I've always known that I want to run a business, and that's always been my dream, and I've always wanted to do that. And it starts from the early choices you make. My first one was around choosing to come to UC Berkeley. I played piano for a very long time, so my choice was between Juilliard and UC Berkeley. And my parents really wanted me to get the music degree because of all the years of investment that we've made into that. How many people play instruments? You guys still play today? Good for you. I don't play anymore. But I realized that during the hours I was practicing, I was actually really not happy. I was happier when I left the room. And so I knew that was not the right thing for me. And so I chose Berkeley, and then the rest is kind of history. But knowing your passion is really important. And then further down my career, I realized that my passion is really about turnarounds, not just about running any business. So what gets me excited is when I get to fix something that's really broken, And I really enjoy that. And that gets me excited and motivated to go and do it. It's not the easiest work, but I find it really exciting, and that's where my passion is. So understanding what your passion is will make you a better leader. The other one, I think, it's just as important as understanding your strengths. We spend a lot of time in our lives trying to work on the things that we're not good at. I would say it's just probably as important to leverage your strengths. And there are so many tools out there that helps you understand what your strengths are. I used Strength Finders. Have you guys ever heard of that tool assessment? Okay. I used that, and it helped me better understand what my strengths are and how to leverage those skills and my style for the right environment and situation. And my top strength I learned was competition. So apparently it's a double-edged strength, I would say. But I love to win, apparently. I love to, I would persevere to win. Not win to get my way, but win for the business, right? Or for whatever that objective is. I'll give you an example of how that strength plays itself out. So I had a business that was really sick, and a major retailer was going to discontinue my products. And I've been trying to get a meeting with the buyer, and the buyer would refuse to see me. He's like, no, I'm going to discontinue you. I don't want to hear another story. And so I found out that he was going to play golf over the weekend. And I realized I was going to play with a friend of mine from work. And so I called my friend up and I said, hey, I said, would love to be invited to that golf game. I said, if I don't play golf, I will sit in the cart. I'll drive you guys around. And so, I went and I sat around for hours on this golf cart and we just kind of socialized, And then at one point, the buyer and I were alone. And I said, hey, can we talk business just for 5 minutes? I said, I have a really sick business and I wanted to be able to show you my plan. Can you just give me a meeting? He did. He gave me a meeting. And I was able to show him the plan and we were able to keep the distribution on the shelves, which is great. But just kind of this is what I mean by my strength is I will persevere to figure out how I can go in front of that buyer in order to get kind of the business result done. So I guess understanding your strength and how it manifests itself is really important. And leverage your strengths instead of always working on things that you're not good at. Those are important too, to keep those at bay and keep them balanced. But really, how do you maximize your strengths? I think that is it for me. I would like to open it up for any questions, and maybe we can have a dialogue about leadership and other questions that are on your mind.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. And we have the microphone, so please use the microphones if you have a question. We're capturing this on video. If I could start with the first one as you are assembling yourselves. The word transparency, as you said, right, one of your 3 cultural tenets, that is a word that's used a lot. And then as I heard you explaining it, it had wonderful kind of signature quality to it, the way you were talking about transparency and safe space for ideas and so forth. So it's interesting. Did you start with the word transparency and then kind of build what you meant by it? Or I would have thought given the way you describe transparency, I would have thought you'd use a different word to label it.
Yeah. I probably built it the other way, which is what is that environment I want, which is a kind of a safe environment to be able to share ideas.
Got it.
And I use that and then try to figure out, well, what's a word? I don't think there is really just one word that describes that, And it's similar even to the word I use, optimism, and what I meant by that. I think that it's really important in any cultural trait or value is to get to that next level of definition. Because people don't know what these words mean. Like optimism, what does that mean? Like what do people go do to be optimistic, But getting to that next level of description as to how people should behave and what you're expecting out of it, it's really key to building culture.
Thanks.
Oh, come on, you guys must have questions.
Hi,
Hi.
great presentation, thank you.
What's your name?
I'm Kate Alper.
Hi, Kate.
I'm staff here at the Haas School of Business, and I used to work at Plum Organics, also
yes.
distributed in Target
Yes.
and with high growth. And I've heard the statistic that 80% of new products launched in CPG fail. And I was wondering if you could talk about an experience of a product that you had that actually didn't do as well as you had hoped.
Yes. Let me see. I want to talk about my experience on bleach. We launched a product that was about splashless. So one of the big dissatisfiers about using bleach. Does anybody use bleach? Okay, all right, okay. Because most people don't use it anymore. So you use bleach for cleaning, you use bleach for laundry, washing clothes. So one of the biggest dissatisfiers is it splashes on your clothes and it stains it, right? It stains it white. So one of the things that we were trying to fix was come up with a new product that becomes splashless, okay? I think the biggest mistake we made there was that I don't think people are willing to pay for it. It was a price premium that we came up with on this bottle. And people were like, well, yeah, I'll just be more careful, and not pay this, whatever the premium was that we had. It was just not worth it. So I think that was a key part for us. It was a key learning for me. Like there has to be consumer value that's worth it for them to pay. So it's the price value equation on this new product.
Hi, Joy. My name's Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
And I wanted to go back to your story about, getting the buyer to agree to a meeting with you. And so what that story kind of told me was that sometimes you have to be really assertive, maybe even aggressive to meet the end that you want. And I guess there's always kind of a balance that you need to strike in being assertive versus aggressive, and maybe being aggressive is the answer in some situations. How do you personally find that balance, especially as a female, where the social expectation is that we shouldn't be aggressive? And then I guess the second part to that question is, do you find that there is a space to be aggressive as the higher that you go up?
It's interesting that you found that learning of that story to be aggressive. I actually would have thought that it's creative. I think that if it was aggressive, I would have continued to pursue him with a call. That's assertiveness. I think that would become annoying at some point to the buyer, right? So I just decided, I'm going to try another way. I got to find another angle so that it doesn't seem like it's assertive and aggressive. And I went to an environment where it was social. It took that, I think, that tension out of the system, of the assertiveness potentially that you were talking about, and became more pleasant. I don't know if, I think there are ways that a female leader can be effective without coming across as aggressive, So it's just a different approach to things. And if one way doesn't work, you have to think about how other ways would be more acceptable. Just know your audience. Hi.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I'm really interested in your background in working at social-driven, mission-driven businesses. And when I think of consumers, I think the way they think about their purchase, right, is what's good and right for me. And very, very secondary is what's right for society. There's an expectation of a base adherence to not doing evil, but something being good for society or the environment doesn't always drive their purchasing decision. And I'm wondering how you've seen that maybe change over time, and how you've struck the balance of messaging, and like what you've found has been effective with consumers in terms of, retention. Are they really buying your product because it works on their face, they like it? Or is it, really some of those decisions around animal testing and so forth that you think is driving their purchasing?
I think in every category, consumers buy the products because they perform for them. They do this incredible result that they want. That's the number one reason why anybody buys into any category. And that's not any different from when you sell bleach versus a beauty product. The social piece, I would say, is not the highest priority because, if the product doesn't work, they're not going to buy it for the social reasons. But I do think that the consumers today, at least the consumers that I'm going after, that part is important. They do want to buy something, but yet also know that the company is doing something good for the community. So it's not just about not doing the evil, but it's about how do you make the community better. And I also think that the social piece of it, or the mission behind it, to do good, is also another way that has attracted a certain type of talent to those companies. It has allowed me to, recruit the people that I really wanted, obviously it's not the reason why I did it, because we want to make sure that the company is aligned and has a do-good piece. But it has all these other benefits that comes with it, and recruiting is a huge part of it.
Hi, I'm Santiago, and I had a question around, given that you have like a competitive personality, we like to win, right? So when you're as a CEO and as a leader of a business, how do you manage for your team to keep challenging you, like to be, like to have an opinion if you always try to be right, and how do you manage them?
You know, the difference, I think my definition of competitive is not that I have to be right. And I don't care if I'm right. I am more tied to the goal of what we're trying to achieve. And if somebody else has the idea and somebody else has a better way for us to win, I'm all for it. So I think my strength is about wanting to win, and I would drive and motivate the team to get to that finishing line for me. And it doesn't matter if the idea came from me, it just had to come from somebody. And that's why I created that diverse team. And I'm hoping that the chances of me getting to the right finish line will get there because I have the right team. So it's not about me. It's rarely about the leader being right. Yeah.
Joy, my name's
Yeah.
Josie. I
Josie?
actually spent my summer at Target because I was really excited about the turnaround that's happening for them right now.
Yes.
My question for you is, so going beyond optimism, especially in a turnaround situation, how do you persuade the people that are in the middle of this turnaround environment to go with the new plan that either you're proposing or the new plan for the turnaround?
And that's a good question. I think part of the optimism is hiring a team that is optimistic. So in terms of how we recruit, in H2O Plus, we created the team. So in the last 8 months I was there, we have a huge business in Chicago and a huge office. We're moving it to San Francisco, and basically we hired almost the entire team. So 80% of our employees are all new. And when we were recruiting, all we were ever looking for is the culture fit. So the 3 things I talked about earlier, I looked for those, To me, that's more important than somebody knowing the skill of how to do something. I mean, that you can see in their resume. Have they done all these things that you're looking for? Do they have the technical skills that you want in that job? But ultimately, at the end of the day, what really matters is the culture fit, and also, are they going to be able to work with each other? So for me, that is the most important part, and I recruit for that. And that's how come the team can come together and be able to deliver.
Hello, thank you so much for being here. My name is Erin, and my question is about, you talked about some of the leadership skills, such as knowing your passion and understanding your strengths, but I'm curious about over the course of your career, from being a manager right out of business school to where you are now as a CEO, how your leadership style has transformed and changed, and what tips you might have for us.
That's a good one, too. I think I'm much more of a soft-spoken leader when I first started. And one of the reasons why I chose Harvard as my business school was I really wanted to force myself to speak up. So Harvard was all about the Socratic method. We opened cases every day, and you get cold called. And that's how it was when I went there many years ago. And I really wanted to make sure that I was able to speak and was not afraid to hear my voice in a public forum. So I really forced myself, even through the school that I chose. But I also think that when I first got out and started working, I was much more of a quieter leader. I rarely ever did things like this. But over the course of time, I was also very fortunate to have mentors that are very different from me and gave me advice, like, you've got to get out there, all the things I just spoke to you about culture, because you're smart, but like it doesn't matter. It's sometimes how you come across as a leader. You want people to follow you. You don't want to be so quiet that nobody knows you're there, was one of the advice I got. And for the longest time, I did not know what that meant. But over time, I realized it was probably one of the best advice I received. So after I knew that, I worked my way to become a much more effective leader by having a voice, by standing up for my people, and painting my vision and speaking about it. So yeah, I would say that's one of the key things I learned, and has really transformed my leadership style. Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm Christian.
Hi, Kristen.
I have two questions in one.
Yeah.
First is, I've seen brands like Sephora, they let you try their products, while if you go to Target, you might have to buy them in a closed package.
Yeah.
So how does that affect sales? And the other question is, if people are willing to buy closed packages, how do you see e-commerce in contrast to brick sales growing in the future?
Okay. For beauty brands, it's really important to try. You're absolutely correct. So when there isn't that alternative for you to try, I think what Target's trying to do is bring these beauty advisors into the stores so that they could teach you or give you advice of what's best for your skin type and for your problem. It's still not the same as trying, but at least you have more information about what to use and what to try and what to buy. But for any beauty brand, if you don't get it in the store, then you have to figure out other alternative ways to get people to try. So you could give away samples, you have to do probably alternative type of marketing in order to get people to sample your products and be able to try them. In terms of e-commerce and brick and mortar, I mean the future is going to be e-commerce. There's so much of, even in this room today, right? I'm sure all of you go on the website to figure out the brand, or Google something to figure out what you want to buy. That's going to be your first line of contact. You're not going to go to a store to go and look at the product. You are going to go online first. So I think that although right now e-commerce is still very small for a lot of the consumer packaged goods brands, but it's probably the fastest growing segment and channel. So that's going to be the future.
Hi, Joy. My name is Keely, and thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience with us today. I know H2O Plus is currently based out of Chicago, but you mentioned that you're moving to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about why you're choosing to move here, if there's something special about the Bay Area location.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that are related to that. So, in Chicago, the H2O business, part of it is really a strategy change that we're making. Okay, so we are making a big strategy change in terms of closing a manufacturing facility in Chicago and completely changing the business model to a sales and marketing one. So that's a really big strategy change that we're making. And alongside of that, we are also going to turn to a sales and marketing company. And I really do believe that there's better talent in the Bay Area for sales and marketing than probably where the company is. And I also wanted to make a huge break in the culture. And by staying in Chicago, it'll be harder to walk away from that culture than moving to somewhere completely new that has great talent and just starting over and rebuilding the culture from scratch. So it's part of a strategy change that we're trying to make and how important culture is in terms of a turnaround. And this is probably the best alternative. And that's why we made the choice.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. My name's Erin. I'm a staff member here. I had a question about how you recruit the culture. Going back to that, how do you recruit for the employees that you're looking for? How do you reach out and find them? Are there certain questions you ask during the interview process, or just looking for something more concrete on how you actually recruit for for the people that fit into your culture?
You know, I do a lot of behavioral interviewing. I don't know if everybody knows what that means. Behavioral interviewing is you give somebody a situation and see how they respond in that situation. And that usually is driven by what you're looking for in the question that you're asking that's behavioral. So I do a lot of that in order to get to the bottom of if they are really going to be a culture fit or not, and how they respond and how they solve the problem. So I do a lot of that in addition to the technical piece. I would say that piece probably takes a lot more precedence to do than even the technical questions that we ask at the company. So that's how I recruit.
Joy. I'm
Hi.
Sydney Thomas. I'm a second year here at Haas, and I had a question around turnarounds as well. I really wanted to know, because I'm sure there's tons of CPG companies who are experiencing some sort of turmoil. So I wanted to know how you picked which ones to actually go to, and then how you decide at the end of it, once you've turned it around, when is the right time to leave?
I see. Okay. All right. You know, I think that picking turnarounds is such a personal thing, you know? For me, it was important for me to be able to see the answer. Like, I know how to go fix it by looking at the problem. And it happened both when I went to Yes2. They were going through a product recall at the time that I joined, and I knew I was going to walk right into it. But, you know, how do you solve for that? And what potential do you see on the business? And so the brand was very much called Yes to Carrots at that time. And I only had one line. So I really saw the potential that it could be at the Yes to equity. So I saw the potential of that brand, that branding, to be so much larger than what it is. So seeing the potential and the opportunity led me to do the Yes to. Almost like I have to have the answer. Like I have to have the vision for what it's going to look like. And the same thing with H2O Plus. I saw the opportunity and I kind of figured out, I kind of had an idea how to go get it fixed. But I think the difference between the two is that H2O Plus has so much interesting elements to it, where it's not, you get to change the business model, which is a huge strategy change. You get to recreate the entire team, right? You get to rebrand. I mean, it's rare that in one turnaround you get to do all three. So it's a phenomenal opportunity. Okay.
We have time for 2 more questions, please.
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
I'm Emma. I also worked at Target. I was a buyer there
Oh,
before
great.
Haas. And I'm a second year now. You talked a little bit about finding your voice at HBS and learning to speak up. Can you give any other advice you might have for how we can best take advantage of our time at business school?
About speaking up or about what other?
Essentially about other elements of business school that you found incredibly valuable on your leadership journey later on.
Okay. You know, this is also a word that's so overly used, which is the networking, the word of networking. So I was not a believer of it when I was in business school. I hung out with people that I enjoyed hanging out with, and I think we all feel more comfortable with people that we, are closer to and we feel comfortable with. But what's really important is actually going to a business school is getting the right network. I mean, you get to meet so many, competent and bright and talented people. My biggest advice is to get to know more people and network and get to know others that are not similar to you. Because your network is only going to be as large as the people that you touch. And if you keep on hanging out with the same people, then your network is going to be fixed in that size. But part of going to business school is to get to know more people in the industry and other industries. So that would be my biggest advice, is to not just do the books and do the study, but get out there and be social.
Hi, my name is Akshi. I have a question on who are your favorite leaders you look up to, and what about the leadership skills inspires you and gives you ideas about improving your own skills or owning them. Thank you.
You know, this is not a leader, but my favorite, the person I always talk about is my mom. I do still get kind of emotional about this. You know, the thing that she tells me all the time when I was growing up was, you know, you can do it as long as you put your mind, your heart to it. That's all she ever said to me. And I think I've always carried that with me to whatever I did in my journey. Because I'm never really not really that scared about anything. I'm kind of fearless when it comes to that. And I think it comes from that support that I get from my mother. And I also think that, you know, she's sacrificed a lot. I mean, I was born in Hong Kong, and my parents sent all of us, all the siblings, all my siblings here for college. And that's a huge investment for a company, I mean, for a family that's, you know, for a family, company family. Pretty, you know, there's similarities. And, you know, that's a huge investment for them to make. And I know they made it all for us. And I was the last one. And by the time I was growing up, you know, we moved. We immigrated here to San Francisco and to U.S. So I think the commitment that my parents made for us so that we can have a better, you know, journey, a more positive one, is something it will always stay with me. And then, you know, the words from my mother is something that carries me through every day.
Culture as an enabler, and optimism and transparency and doing the right thing. A Berkeley leader. Joy Chen, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.